June 1944. After 2 years of terrible defeats at Stalingrad and the loss of Kursk, the Russians were getting ready to send. It is June 1944. The Germans suffered reversals at Stalingrad and at Kursk in 1942 and 43 respectively. But now this is June 1944. In recent weeks, the Russians have been sending messages about moving troops to the southern part of the Russian front. The Germans, anticipating that there would be an offensive, send a large number of their reserves to that part of the front. Little did they realize that the Russians were playing a deception game called Maskirovka. And this is one of the fights involved in Operation Bagration. To give an historical context here, we're looking at the elements of the 1st Mechanized Corps, considered to be part of the sickle in this Soviet offensive, Operation Bagration, named after a Russian prince by the name of Bagration. If you look at the spelling, you're thinking it's Bagration. That's not accurate. But anyways, our 1st Mechanized Force, starting here, works its way through, and this is all the historical aspects of it, going to Glusk, going on to Slutsk, and ultimately ending at Baranovichi. At this point, we're right about here. We are at about the 30th of June, 1944. The scenario that we're going to play today is breakthrough. So what forces do we have? Well, the Germans have 2 companies. There is a company of Panzer IVs, which we have our HQ, which is in reserve. We have a platoon of Panzer IVs, which are in ambush. We have another platoon of Panzer IVs, but we also have a platoon of Panther tanks as well. So these Panzer IVs are in ambush. These guys are in reserve. Now, we got to look over, there's a second company, and that is the Panzer Grenadier Company, made up of our company HQ. We have ourselves a weakened platoon with Panzer Schreck. We also have another weakened platoon with Panzer Schreck as well, and they are dug in. We also have over here, we have 2 75mm anti-tank guns that are set up. For the Russians, we have these objectives here and here. For the Russian forces, it is in fact a T-34 battalion. And for our start, we have our command tank right here. We have 1 company of 10 T-34 tanks. We have another company here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 T-34 tanks. We also have yet a 3rd company of 5 T-34 tanks. We have 4 122 millimeter artillery pieces. We also have an observation car, that's our armored car, our BA-64, but there is one other thing that we have to look at, and that's going to be over here because they are going to be the reinforcements, the delayed reserves, and that is a full-on SMG company with the addition of 2 flamethrowers. So, those are the forces. Breakthrough, this is it. Okay, looking at some ideas for Russian turn 1. The idea with this company here is to do a terrain dash from here to go around here. In other words, to do an end run. To do an end run around here and jump the anti-tank guns. The infantry that are dug in, the Panzer Grenadiers that you see dug in, well, that's what the not SU-122s, the 122s are for. We're going to go and start lobbing a barrage on those guys. The Germans do get reserves coming in, but, well, I think for the Ruskies, probably the best approach is smash and grab. So we'll see what happens at the end of Russian turn 1. Okay, so here we are at the end of Russian turn 1. And we've got the company that was over here. They have been moved forward here with the idea the next time they are going to jump these guys here in the following turn. We also had the other company that was over here, moved to here. They tried to shoot. They tried to do some shooting on the German positions here. They failed. The 122s started to range in over here, getting the AT guns and 2 of the Panzer Grenadier platoon, but they failed to range in. Let's see how the Germans react to this one. Okay, so at this point, the Germans did some movement over there with the HQ, getting a little closer to the platoon here that's under threat. The AT guns there are turning, and they are going to fire. They are beyond, just outside of the 16 range here. The Russians are aggressive. They're hit on a 3, but due to the plus 16, they're beyond 16 inches. That's going to go from a 3 to a 4. Each AT gun has 2 dice for rate. And here we go. 3 hits. So we're going to go for 1, 2, and 3. 3 hits. They have an anti-tank of 12. The Russians have armor of 6. But because of the extra range, it now becomes a 7. So the Russians need to roll at least a 5 or 6. 5, it ties. 6, it bounces. So we'll go for this one first. Penetrated. Okay. Possible bail. And penetrated. So now we have got 2 that have penetrated. And the firepower for our AT gun is a 3+. So we are going to roll here for this one. Nope, it's a bailout. And then this one here, completely destroyed. Possible bail, and it's bailed. So at this point we have 2 Russian tanks that have been bailed. 1 Russian tank has been destroyed. And that's pretty much the end of German turn 1. Okay, here we are at the end of Russian turn 2. So, as you can see, the Russian tanks moved forward. Everybody is now attempting to jump the German position with everything they got. Bum rush, if you will. One T-34 was able to get themselves out. Like, they end up climbing back in. The other one didn't make it. So you can see how they have managed to go forward. And the artillery did land on the 3rd try. They got 5 hits, but that was about it. Then no effect on the anti-tank guns. These guys here tried to fire with their main guns, as well as these guys on the anti-tank guns. There was no effect whatsoever. In fact, the only thing we can say is that the Panzer Grenadier platoon got pinned. And that's it for Russian turn 2. Okay, so we're at the start of German turn 2. The Panzer Grenadiers were unable to come back, so they're still pinned, that platoon. The Germans rolled for reinforcements from the immediate reserves. They got 1, so they brought the Panthers on here. And this is a German side of the board, German quarter of the board. They got to come along this edge right here, and they've moved forward. We also decided to spring the ambush of 3 Panzer IVs put them in concealment terrain. They're outside of the 4 inches of the Russians, and that is going to be about it for now. Let's see what the dice rolls look like. Here we are at the end of German turn 2. With the ambush of the Panzer IVs, the timely arrival of the Panthers, they've managed to take out one more Russian tank, bailed out another, and took out another 2 Russian tanks at this point. The die rolling could have been better, but at this point now, the Russians do have a few problems on their own. Meanwhile, we still have the Panzer IVs way in the back, and we still have the German HQ that is in ambush. Yeah, we'll see what happens next with Russian turn 3. Okay, here we are at the end of Russian turn 3. Russian tanks had to make some decisions, so they fell back to come around the sides of the Panthers, and in the process they took out 1 Panther. Meantime, these T-34s started to open on those Mark IVs over there. They took out 1 Mark IV. These T-34s on this end here, whoops, yeah, so you gotta see these T-34s on this end here decided to open up on the infantry platoon over here. They did take out 1 stand. Meanwhile, the artillery came in and pinned the AT guns, as well as the Germans couldn't unpin from here to begin with, so it doesn't matter, but it did pin the 2 AT guns there. So let's see what happens with German turn 3. So here we are at the end of German turn 3. Last German reinforcements, the HQ unit popped on the board here. They did some damage. The Panthers responded accordingly. And we also had the Panzer IVs join in with one of the anti-tank guns. And the only thing left of this once large tank company, only tank number 35 is left. Now the formation commander's off to the side, so even when for the Russian turn he can become the leader, he still has to roll for last stand. In the meantime, the other AT gun fired and bailed out 1 T-34, while the lone platoon over there, no longer gone to ground, so that's going to have to be removed. They fired on this group here, taking out 1 T-34. Hopefully the Russians will get reinforcements coming in, because the boys are waiting on the side. All right, let's see what happens for the next turn. We're at the end of Russian turn 4, so we had 1 company of T-34s move out from here out to here to open up on the German Panzers over there. Nothing. This Russian tank company fired on the Panzer IVs, taking out the second one. So, oh my, there's going to be a last stander there. Meanwhile, our remaining T-34, ladies and gentlemen, our remaining T-34 here fired on the Panther, bailing him out. And for the Russian artillery, they finally managed to take out the second AT gun. So that's another last stand for them. All right, we'll see what the Germans do for turn 4. Stay tuned, Flames of War fan. So looking at the end of German turn 4, we got some movement here, firing and The formation commander's tank is bailed out. This guy is still around. Meanwhile, the two Panthers moved up to here and combined with the fire from the remaining AT gun and the one Panzer 1, 2, 3 tanks of this company have been obliterated. I mean, yeah. These three here, obliterated. This one is bailed out. This is the last guy who's intact. He's now the new commander. Meanwhile, somebody is going to have a conversation with these guys over there because they took an unauthorized schnapps break. 6 shots. Yeah, 6 shots on these guys here. Whiff. Somebody is going to pay for that insolence. Alright guys, we're on to Russian turn 5. So here we are at the end of Russian turn 6. No, 5, sorry. It's 5. Yeah. So this guy tried to fire, got this Mark IV pinned down here. Okay, yeah, got him pinned down. Yeah, I'm kind of working with the camera here. I'm a one-man team. And that was it. This guy pulled back to here. This T-34 company pulled back here, fired artillery on there, and pinned the anti-tank gun and pinned the Panzer Grenadier platoon again. Pinned them, but there is something bigger of a deal here. And that is the submachine gun company has arrived. And right now they have got the control of one objective here. The Germans have one chance at this. They have to dispute it. Otherwise, this game is going to be over real quick. So we see the end of Russian turn 6. And essentially, not a lot happened. Our formation commander ran for it, did the dash to join up with these guys. They pulled up to fire on those Panzer IVs, bailing one out. Meanwhile, not only these guys didn't rally, they managed not to hit. There was only one SMG unit. They somehow managed not to hit this guy, rolling all 2s when they needed just a 4. Just a 4. Yeah. So the game goes on. We are now going to go into German turn 6. So here we are at the end of German turn 6. Our HQ has moved up to fire on the Russian tank units here. The Panthers have also moved up to fire on the Russian tank units, successfully taking out this one and this one in the process. Meanwhile, the anti-tank gun was unsuccessful. The Panzer IV was unsuccessful. The Panzer Grenadiers decided to charge forth, even though those guys were pinned, but they were repulsed. And they were repulsed with casualties. Panzer IVs are moving a little bit closer. The Panzer platoon here decided to abandon the foxholes and start to go and protect this next objective. So we are on to Russian turn 7. So we're at the top of Russian turn 7, can you imagine? This dice roll is going to be critical because these guys need to be unpinned. The tactics are really simple. We're going to swarm these guys and take them out and thus secure the objective and the game. But it boils down to this dice roll because they do need to rally and... no, not to be pinned down. There is no commander reroll as the commander's on the other side of the field. It's not over, folks. The fight still goes on. Ura pobeda. So here we are at the end of Russian turn 7. You know these guys still remain pinned, but they were able to fire and they took out one of the stands here. The Russian artillery zeroed in here, pinned these guys here. That is the Panzer Company commander, Panzer Grenadier commander. Meanwhile, the Russians have moved their tanks trying to get out of the line of sight of these HQ formation Panzer Force. So they're here just trying to take cover, because if they go away along with the formation commander, that's this one right here, then it's game over for the Russians. So we'll see what happens with German turn 7. It's still anybody's game, folks. Hey all, it is the end of German turn 7. We are going to call the game on this one. The German formation, Panzer formation HQ unit fired on these guys, taking out this guy here. The Panthers over there moved and started to shoot at the Russians there, but they missed horribly. But really, truly, the main action that had to happen, the one that was going to make the world of a difference, pardon my camera angle, there's only 3 people on the production team, me, myself, and I. Oh, it got ugly. And with the assault that the Panzers did, with the Panzer Grenadiers in support, laying down the fire, taking out some more teams, the Panzer Force came in on the assault, and they defeated the SMG company. You can tell it's in disarray at this point, and they are pinned on top of it. And, well, I mean, yes, they could motivate to attack here, but when you're looking at, 3, 6, 9, and then you've got the Panzer Grenadier units over there, here and here, firing in defensive fire on an assault, on an aggressive raiding. It's like, that's not going to happen. So the Germans were successful in preventing the Russians from getting the objective. But that one die roll that I recorded earlier on Russian turn 7, that was a clincher. Had it gone the other way, they could have forced the Germans off the objective and secured victory. All in all, it was a good game. As the Russian player, I did not expect the German reserves to come in literally on turns 1 and 2. That was a bit of a surprise. I thought there might possibly be a little bit of time there, but that did not happen. But it was a good fight. Both sides gave it their all, as I try to play both sides equally, taking advantage of the mistakes that the others did. This is my first game on the new table here in the new room, as opposed to my garage. And I have to say, I like the room much better than the garage. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed this. This is Solo Guy signing off. God bless. Have a good day.